Movement is not the same as mission, and I've confused the two for years. Some things in life just aren't worth doing. Hey, what's up? I'm Nick. Future Nick owns a multi-$100 million business built on helping the next generation pursue their purpose, chase after their vocation, and scale their dreams. Current Nick is just putting in the reps to get there. I am documenting the journey as I lay the foundation, build the pillars, and construct the business that I have named Redwater. Redwater is the name of the thing that I am most likely going to spend a large chunk of my life building. I believe that it is the vocation that the Lord has called me to pursue. Redwater will be built on a foundation of faith and the pillars of sovereignty, vocation, and community. If you're interested in how I define those others, I have other videos like that. Today we are talking about vocation specifically. The church talks about vocation in three separate layers. First, the vocation, the universal call to holiness. That is, I am climbing the mountain to heaven, period. My eyes are on God. The second is your state of life vocation, and that is most commonly seen in the priesthood and in marriage. And the third is your occupational or your personal vocation. So what I'm talking about today is my personal vocation. I do want to be a saint, which is layer one, and I am already married, which is layer two. So that third layer is, how do I fit into the plan and what am I chasing after in life? Since I started this journey, I've been documenting my thoughts on Facebook almost like a public journal. It's a way for me to really, well, first off, refine my writing and really understand the things that I think and how to communicate them into words. And it's also a form of accountability because I post them out loud. I've spent hours and hours and hours thinking about this stuff and putting it into words and praying on it and beating it up to make sure that it actually stands true and it is actually something I believe in. If faith is action without seeing the outcome and sovereignty is owning the outcome, then vocation is the outcome itself. I've spent 6 years jumping from thing to thing trying to find out what works for me. But everything works for someone. If woodworking didn't work, there wouldn't be carpenters. I could play the pity card and say, it didn't work for me, but that's silly. I didn't work on it. For context, I've attempted crypto, gunsmithing, e-commerce, podcasts, media, wine tours, and woodworking. Probably more than that. And no, that's not impressive. That's distracted. That is mistaking movement for mission. If vocation is the outcome, and I believe that God has a plan to reach that outcome, then it follows that I should consult Him. Actually consult Him. Not just tell Him what I plan to do and get mad when it doesn't work. He's given me a set of talents, advantages really, that point towards that vocation. So vocation is the mountain that God has called you to climb while still on earth. Vocation is how you fit into the plan, how you fit into His plan. It is the outcome that is the result of all of the actions that you have taken while following the Lord. So theoretically, if I were to live a sinless life like Mary, I were to climb my mountain of vocation perfectly. As it is, unfortunately, I am a sinner and I fall off that path all the time. The vocation is the path that God has called me to, and I just follow it imperfectly. I have had a tendency throughout my life to ladder up my passions and my talents and misascribe them to certain things and then chase after those things blindly without actually consulting anyone, really. I would consult people who were maybe not where I wanted to be in life, or I would consult people who were not where I wanted to be in life, who were not living out the virtues that I aspire to have. And for some reason, I took all of their advice, and that led me down a lot of different rabbit holes. And I'm not blaming them because also many of those decisions I made completely on my own. By starting and failing at business 4 or 5 different times and sinking a lot of money in years, I have learned finally, with the help from my amazing wife and from the Lord, that maybe instead of running at things blindly, I should take time to discern them. The reason I tended to run to things before discerning was because I had always heard that quote, especially in Catholic circles, of since discernment became popular, no one's done anything. And I was determined not to live by that and to actually take action. I figured that if I ran in a direction, any direction, God would guide me. And guide me He did. I just bumped along the edges along the way a whole bunch. What that ladders up to, though, is if there is a mountaintop that I need to climb that God has prescribed for me, that he's given me the great honor of chasing after to fit into his larger plan. And I don't have the skills to climb that mountain, means currently my vocation is just learning those skills. God has given me a set of talents, things that I am naturally good at, whether that's through genetics or whatever. The point is that there are some skills that I tend to learn very, very quickly. And that gives me an advantage. When I put those skills together and I turn them into action, those actions result in outcomes. Enough of those outcomes string together, and that is the path towards the mountaintop. I see a great many people who I really care about too, who are not on any path. They float around through life as if they were a dead fish, and they are unskilled and they don't learn any new skills. And that hurts me. One of the reasons it hurts me so deeply is because I am one of those people who have spent a lot of time floating around thinking that I was just naturally talented enough to solve all of my problems, when in reality, I need to learn skills. I need to learn how to climb the mountain. And without doing that, I'm never going to climb that mountain. It's just not going to happen. Nobody's going to climb it for me, and nobody's going to pick me up and place me there. I have to actually put in the work, which means waking up early and staying up late and sacrificing time with family and friends for a season, for a period of time, in order to accomplish that. So by taking a really practical look at vocation and a really logical look at vocation, it's basically a big if-then statement. If I believe that God has put me on this earth to chase an outcome, then there is a path to that outcome. If I don't know how to walk the path to that outcome, I need to learn how to walk the path to that outcome, which means I need to learn skills. So once I get directionally correct, I'm going northeast instead of south. So once I get directionally correct and I'm kind of in the ballpark and I kind of know what I'm doing, I just need to do a lot of action. I need to take a lot of steps, and that's where those sovereignty skills come in. That's the action of climbing the mountain, is actually just having faith that I'm walking to something that's worth it and having the grit and the discipline to do it. Defining vocation in this way as it being a tangible outcome, or rather many outcomes that are stringed together, that is on the path that the Lord has set for you, has really helped me to take inventory of what I'm doing and make sure it's worth it. Pretending that the action I'm taking matters and pretending that the outcomes that I have achieved matters not only keeps me stagnant, it makes me a liar. And to tie this up, I have this image that was given to me by a priest during a homily many, many years ago. The image is of a maze. It's a big maze, it's a big tower, it stretches all the way into the clouds, into the heavens. And that maze, walking through that maze, up floors and floors and floors and floors, is our journey through life. In order to walk that maze, the Lord, the maze maker, has given us a map and a compass. And it is literally a map of the maze. There are many, many people who stand outside of the maze and they hold the map and they look at the compass and they stand there forever. And they read the map over and over and over again and they try to memorize it, and they look at the compass and they keep hoping that it's going to point a different direction, but it doesn't. They've been standing there so long that they have vines growing up their legs and arms, and they have birds making nests in their hair. There's another group of people who disregard the map and the compass and they just sprint. And they sprint into the maze and they run into walls and then they get stuck and then they turn around a bunch. If you couldn't tell, I'm one of those people. And they end up not getting very far, and they get so exhausted and so burnt out without making much progress up towards heaven. The last group of people take the map, they take the compass, and then they just start walking. They trust that the map is going to get them where they need to go. They trust that the compass is going to continue to guide them. Now, in this analogy, the map is sacred scripture and sacred tradition and the teachings of the church. And the compass is the Holy Spirit, and he guides you as you go through. We also have other people who are using the map and compass that we can band together with to climb together. And that's ultimately what community is, and I have a whole video on that. And all it takes is action, taking steps, and then using the tools that you have. And I'm trying very hard not to disregard my map and compass, because I have a tendency to just take off running. All of that to say, if you're lost, just start learning skills. Start with what you're talented with. If you know your mission, start walking it. And if you're scared, that's a good thing. Easy things aren't worth doing anyway. So to future Nick, thank you for learning the skills necessary to pursue the will of God and to build the foundation and the creation that is Redwater. If you're not future Nick, but this resonated with you, that means you're probably one of us. So don't waste another year. Learn, move, build. Thanks for watching.